Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge in financial freedom. Today, I've got a little article about Ethereum 3.0 and a potential roadmap that might get announced today. So we will dive on in today and get you people prepped for success. I see we have French Toaster in here, username Kyle Fields, and Darren Does Things. So good morning to all of you. Let's hop over to the stock heat map. We've got a slight pullback on some of the market. We've got Nvidia sitting down 1.61% from yesterday. Apple down 1.2%. Got Berkshire Hathaway up 0.85%. Amazon sitting down 0.64%. We've got Eli Lilly sitting up 0.11%. Tesla continuing to make some big gains, up 8.96%. We've got United Health Services up 1.53%. We've got Microsoft sitting down 1.07%. Google is up 1.12%. And Meta is sitting down 1.05%. For the crypto side of things, looking a little red this morning. You do have some outliers. Bitcoin sitting down 1.19%. Got Ethereum down 2.07%. Got Solana sitting down 3.47%. BNB is down 4.29%. You got XRP being one of those outliers. It is up 3.91% today. You've got Dogecoin, also one of the outliers. It's kind of hard to wipe away a bunch of those gains when it was up so massively. It is still up 12.86% with after a little bit of pullback. It was sitting at 4 cents this morning. So we've got Cardano sitting down 3.36. We've got Shiba Inu wiping away some of those gains. It is down 4.25%. Tron is sitting up 5.6%, and we've got Avalanche sitting down 2.46% right now. Let me hop over to the economic calendar. As we had discussed yesterday, there is not a lot of heavy data coming out today. We do have some Fed speeches that will be coming out throughout the day. Fed Waller, Fed Barkin. A little bit later in the day, Fed Kashari. We do have Fed Harker and Fed Barker speaking again. So that's kind of the data for today. The heavy data will be tomorrow, as we discussed, with those core inflation rates month over month, year over year, the CPI coming out as well, and the inflation rate month over month and year over year. Today's moves will pretty much be in preparation for tomorrow's data drop. That will be coming out at 8:30 Eastern time, so a little before market open, and you can definitely expect to see some big moves coming off of that on the crypto side and the stock market to be affected as well. This is going to be a heavy data drop, especially right after this Trump being elected rally. So could see a little bit of a correction. As I had discussed yesterday, you do have some of the data that is pretty neutral. Neutral's not always a good thing. Neutral can go either way, especially when you have a big rally like this. We are sitting right below $90,000 on Bitcoin, and that was one of my potential breakout targets from the whole wedge pattern that we had been in for 6 months. I had drawn a little box a long time ago, and we are sitting right underneath it. I'm looking for a slight little bounce and maybe some cooling off on that fear and greed, because it's kind of hot right now. We have definitely ticked up pretty high on the fear and greed. You do have the inflation rate year over year, which is not the core, which the core excludes some of the data, but your overall inflation rate year over year is forecasted to be ticking back up just a little bit, 0.2%. So that's also something that with neutral data could definitely pull the markets back just a little bit. Let me swap over to that fear and greed for you. As I had talked about, we are sitting up on the stock market fear and greed. We're in 69 and some greed. But here's that crypto fear and greed sitting up 4 points in extreme greed at 80. This is definitely a signal that some cooling off could be expected here in a little bit. I know I'd like to see a cool off in a strong range where we can hold some support and not tick back down to the downside too much on that. But we will kind of have to see how things play off of this data that we're going to be getting. Let me get over to the liquidations. We've got some hot spots to the top side of us, sitting at about 90,000. I know there's some discrepancies exchange to exchange, so that's going to be the hot spot for the daily chart. Let me hop over to the week to see what liquidity might be to the basically no liquidity to the downside of us. So nothing to really pull that down too heavy except for a cool off. We have definitely moved to the upside extremely explosively. There's there's a lot of points below us where we could really turn them into some support levels, and we will take a little look at that. As you can see on the monthly chart, the hot spot for liquidity is way down here for around the 65,000 mark, and I think we're just going to leave that behind. There was a fair value gap there that I would have liked to see close, but we're just going to leave it behind now. It is bull market time, and I don't know if we ever close that gap. We've definitely left gaps behind in the past on explosive moves up that just never get closed. Gaps don't have to be closed. It's a gap that can be tested, but isn't always tested. I know LBC talked a while back about 70% of the time gaps get closed. Well, this is one of those 30% of the times. That gap's going to get left open and might get left open forever because we have some from previous runs. So we'll kind of see how things play out. We've got Bitcoin sitting here at $87,100 this morning, getting a little bit of a pullback, cooling off. We have this level that I had talked about yesterday that I had kind of wanted to see was that $85,000 mark. Could definitely be a spot where we turn it into some support. The trend still is to the upside. As you can see, just explosive moves up. We've made a lot of gaps on the way up, but that support level that we're going to make is probably going to be a little bit higher than some of these gaps are. These gaps are sitting down here in 70,000 range, as I had talked about the other day. That whole move up left a CME gap and a fair value gap. But with the way that the markets are right now, and with the inflows that you're seeing not only from retail buyers but institutions, those gaps could easily get left behind. And these institutions, for a change, could also miss out on those price points. So here's that target I had drawn before. It depends on where you measure the breakout from. If you measure from the middle line of a wedge, or if you measure from the top line of a wedge, this range was 92,000 for the midline, and to the top side 102,000. There's been a lot of talk about those price points where we finally break $100,000, and I think this is going to be the time that we finally get there. There was a lot of talk about it last cycle. I never thought we'd get that far last cycle, but this looks like the cycle for it. I would like us to break into this after finding some support at that $85,000 range we had talked about. We blasted through the 786 here, the platinum pocket, and made light support on that. It'd be nice to see us leave that level behind and find some support here in this breakout point. If I show you the megaphone that we had been sitting in for 6 months, let me zoom out to a higher time frame. Let's see the weekly chart. There we go. As you can kind of see here, here was that megaphone that we were sitting in for about 6 months. And there's that. Oh, let me adjust that line. It extends all the way to the right. There we go. So as you can kind of see here, to the all-time high from back then. And if you measure from the bottom, you can kind of see it sits down in the mid-range. That middle of the target is sitting right there at that $102,000 mark. So that's kind of what I had been looking at. I was looking for a little bit of a later breakout, which is why that $92,000 mark was kind of the thing I was looking at. I was looking at a later November pump, maybe early December. So we've definitely got that quite a bit earlier than I was really expecting. I was hoping for a little bit more waffling around in this range before we broke out. But that Trump election has really changed things. It's changed the global market as well. I have an article on that we will hop into in a second. Let me zoom back down to an hourly time frame. As you can kind of see here, we have got a little bit of a pullback, but with the pullback, you can kind of see we came really close to that level I was talking about. That could be that little bottom for right now. As you can see, the MACD is curving a little bit. That prime oscillator still has a little more room where it could curve, but your money flow's looking a little bit red. But it's at that point where you could start flashing some reversal signals, some oversold signals. You're seeing a lot of buying pressure down here on this wick. You're seeing the buying pressure back here on the way up into it. So that's showing that right above this one line on the fib extension, there's still some decent buying pressure. So let me hop out to the 4 hour. As you can kind of see here, we do have the curvature. On the MACD, your prime oscillator is curving a little bit. You've got some divergences, but your money flow is very, very solidly green. That's something that could keep that pump going, even though we might see some slight pullback this morning. Just something to keep in mind for the day. Let me say hello to the chat again. I see some more people in here. We've got Crypto Mar in here. Got Anthony Soprano saying good morning all. Crypto Billy, good morning, good morning. Maybe a Band-Aid is in here as well. We've got Dante Cabrero saying good morning. Broken No Dinero saying good morning, fam. Good morning, good morning. Thank you to everyone that showed up today. Let me hop on over to my Ethereum article. Let me close that out and zoom in just a little bit for you so you can see some of what I'm reading. We got Ethereum 3.0. Sharding may return to scale Ethereum to millions of TPS. I think that's a little bit of a hopium headline. They love to do that to the people, especially when things are bullish. They throw more hopium headlines, but it touches on it later in the article where that would be slightly more of a long-term goal for that. An Ethereum researcher's social media post has ignited speculation about a possible solution to the Layer 1 blockchain scalability challenges. Consensus CEO Joe Lubin said that this may involve reviving the concept of sharding to address scalability. On November 11th, Ethereum's researcher Justin Drake posted on X that he would announce an ambitious initiative for Ethereum. Drake said he had contemplated a from-scratch redesign of Ethereum's consensus layer, which some interpreted as a step towards solving its scalability issues. The researcher said his goal was to suggest a strategy to ship a beacon chain roadmap. He expected to share the full proposal at DevCon in Bangkok, Thailand on November 12th. That was a little bit earlier. So they're already in November 12th. It is now November 12th for us. So definitely something to keep in mind, that that new roadmap for Ethereum 3.0 will be coming out here soon. In an interview with Cointelegraph's Andrew Fenton, Lubin suggests Drake's idea involved revisiting sharding execution. The CEO explained that this could entail developing a zero-knowledge Ethereum virtual machine at Layer 1, allowing for multiple identical execution shards. Lubin explained that while sharding was set aside a few years ago because it wasn't really possible, more on the tech side, it might make a comeback in this upcoming proposal. The interesting thing about that, the way of using Layer 1 wasn't really possible a few years ago when we discarded the idea of execution sharding. What we need to do was throw open this divergent exploration, and a lot of stuff came back. Lubin added that there's a lot of learnings from the development of zero-knowledge approaches and optimism approaches that could be brought back down to the Ethereum Layer 1 and make everything better. Lubin also believes that this could lead to scalability solutions for Ethereum. You're just boiling down a giant amount of computation at different layers and amortizing a lot of computation into a single transaction. If you do that every 2 seconds or less, then you get a lot of transactions per second, he explained. While Lubin anticipates millions of transactions per second, TPS, he's also cautious that achieving this scale could take years. Following Drake's post, rumors about Ethereum 3.0 upgrade circulated among the Ethereum's community. On X, Ambient Finance founder Doug Cockton posted that a rumor that Ethereum 3.0 announcement is a second merge into a new consensus targeting 1 second block times and a native zero-knowledge Ethereum virtual machine. Cockton said that the rumors turn out to be accurate. Having a native ZK EVM could be a huge update. The gas limit would be eliminated entirely. Builders can build arbitrarily large blocks since nodes only need to verify the snark. The only scaling limit would be left would be bandwidth. Cockton expressed optimism that ZK EVM would mean arbitrarily scalability and eliminate the need for layer 2 rollups. So kind of a big thing for Ethereum if they actually are going to bring in sharding for the Ethereum 3.0. It's definitely something that got talked about last time, and I was kind of excited for what it does is it allows you to just take a smaller fragment of your block and use that to build off of it, because you can validate from just a smaller point of the data as long as those points connect. And this also speeds up transaction times and will allow you to do more transactions a second. This is something that would allow these layer 2s to kind of take less of the brunt of the Ethereum moving around, and would open it up for even more scalability. Because if your layer 1 is extremely scalable already, and then you can do more transactions, this allows you to bring more transactions to the network, and those layer 2s will take less of the brunt because your layer 1 can already handle it. And this is a big point where if you want to see real world use case, you need that. You have Visa, which handles literally millions and millions and millions of transactions a day. And if you don't have this, if you don't have your alternative being able to handle that kind of transaction per second that even Visa does. Visa's slow at it. It doesn't settle your transaction as soon as it goes through, which is something that crypto has on these traditional ways of making payments. So Visa handling 3 million transactions per second. Ethereum can't do that yet. But if you want the adoption, you need to get there. So this is definitely a big thing that could push crypto to the front. If you're seeing these chains finally get to that. I know Solana's got some big updates that they're going to be rolling as well. They want to kind of push into that 100,000 transaction per second range. They are currently sitting kind of in the high thousands on your daily use case, but they could definitely make things a little bit higher. Their next goal was 60,000 TPS, and we'll kind of see if they get there. It'd be interesting to see the Ethereum killer Solana get left behind by Ethereum if they introduce sharding. I see Alexo Crypto is in the chat. Good morning. I sharded once. It was messy. We've got username. Man, notifications didn't tell me where it started. I blame Toaster. That Toaster and username back and forth. It always gives me a little bit of a laugh. Username saying BC hating on Near yet? No, not yet. Maybe a little bit later if you want me to look at it. This is the other article that I was looking at this morning. I had talked yesterday about the potential of a Trump presidency and how it could strengthen our economy, but I didn't really talk any on how the Trump presidency can affect your global economy. And this is something that I knew would be coming out, and this gives me the chance to really talk about that. Europe must not be unprepared for trade wars, ECB's Rain says update. High barriers to trade would have a negative impact on the global economy, and Europe must be prepared for increased tensions, Bank of Finland's governor Olli Rehn said Tuesday. Rehn, who is a member of the European Central Bank's Governing Council, said a soft landing for the Eurozone economy was still a plausible scenario, but the outlook is clouded by growing geopolitical uncertainty. A new element in the uncertainty is the trade policy of Donald Trump in his second term as U.S. president. Trump has expressed a desire to raise tariffs on imports from a wide range of countries. What we do know is that the significant import duties would have negative ramifications on the global economy, said Rehn. Rehn said Europe must be better positioned to respond than it was during Trump's first term. if a trade war were to start, Europe must not be unprepared, he said. The ECB continues to say that its key interest rate needs to stay restrictive and damp demand in order to cool inflation. But as it cuts its key rate, there will come a point where it moves to neutral, where the policy is neither restraining nor stimulating the economy. Rain said that it was likely to happen in the first half of next year. We might expect leaving restrictive territory between January and June, he said. This is definitely something that the global economy is going to have to take into effect as Trump wants to strengthen the economy at home, levying tariffs, kind of increasing some of the strain on the back end of some things, because as you do see these tariffs levied, you will see some deficits increase. But on the long-term side of things, if you play it out right, these tariffs could really bring strength back to the American economy and to your American consumer. The consumer will be benefited in the long run as some of these jobs come back, as I had talked about. But on the back end of that, you will see these other countries who have been banking on the American dollar coming into their country and boosting their local economies kind of take the brunt of that, as they will have to pay more to move those goods into the U.S. It will also increase some of their production costs, which will drag down their economy a little bit, because guess who has to pay for that? If the goods cost more to move into the country, well, they're not going to try to raise those costs a whole lot on the American. They still want to move those in there. Yes, it'll cost a little bit more for us because we're going to have to pay the taxes on that. But at home, they will feel more of the brunt of that than we will. Less of those American dollars will be flowing there as you see more of the production side of things coming here. Yes, you'll still see, as I had said yesterday, the small end technology being made over there. Because if you can make a radio for like $1, and you can pay them cents on the dollar to make that and still import it extremely cheaply, there is no reason to move that production back over here. But the big side production, you will see move back to America if Trump does levy those tariffs on them and punish companies that have been trying to skirt around paying taxes and keeping money that in those local economies so that they don't have to pay taxes on it, making subsidiary headquarters over in other countries so that, well, we're not technically an American company anymore. No. You were founded in America. You sell your goods in America. You used to produce all these things in America until you benefited more from moving overseas for your production, and you just found loopholes. So guess what? Bring that on back. And this will help the American economy. And as we raise up, yes, other countries will feel the brunt of it. But when America's doing better, the whole world ends up being a little bit better. We have the largest global economy, and that money, when it's stronger, will flow out and do more good. So this is something that we should keep in mind for a Trump presidency, that there's a lot of potential for some of the global economy to suffer just a little bit. But if we play this out right, the rising tide will raise all ships. And that's kind of what I've been hoping for on the economic side of things. Let me hop over to some of the assets that I was looking at this morning. I do have a gold that I had talked about yesterday, where you can kind of see we're more in that risk-off environment. I was kind of hoping for that 236 bounce. We broke below that. We also broke below the zero line on that fib extension I had drawn, and we are sitting right above a gap. If you zoom it on out, let me pull up a daily, because that's where that gap comes from. This is a fair value gap here from back in September. You can kind of see here explosive move on up before I had did from the bottom point where I had drawn that fib extension. There's a large gap here that we are now lock your fibs, that we are now sitting above again. We've kind of pulled back up to that zero line, but as you can see on a daily chart, if you scroll out a little bit on that MACD, it is still heavily pointed to the downside. It is right above that zero line and looking to break to the bottom side of it. You do have money flow, which is sitting very red. Your prime oscillator is extremely red as well. If you zoom that back up to a 4-hour time frame, you can kind of see we do have a little bit of support right above here. You do have some divergences, reversal signals, but your money flow is extremely red. So this bounce up looks like it's going to be short-lived. Maybe up above that zero line for a little bit before potentially closing that gap. It is risk off time. The people are extremely bullish. They want to make more money than less money, and gold is not going to be something that's making you massive gains when you've got things like Doge that are ripping 20% in a day without leverage. If you would leverage play Doge, which we had called in our Discord, from that 13%, from that, what was it? I think it was the 13 cent that Piper had called in the Discord, which if you want to join that, check out the links in the description. We got the WAP upperclassmen in a trading group, but we had called that out, and with no leverage, that's a 20% gain. With some leverage, you could just use a 5x leverage, and that's 100% gains extremely easily with some explosive moves on up. So you can kind of see gold is finding a little bit of support, but it's not that risk off play that the market's kind of looking at right now. As you can see with silver, I talked about silver yesterday. It did end up finding support on that zero line that I had been talking about, that I wanted to kind of see. That $30 mark has been a strong point for silver for buying. So definitely a point to see some strength regained on silver. Silver is used a lot in your electronics and your cars and on the production side for your military. So it is not just a precious metal anymore. Its supply does get used up in a bunch of these electronics. It is not able to be reused in things like the military use case. It is destroyed forever, and that will never come back into that supply. So as it gets more and more used, it becomes less and less of that precious metal, and that price is kind of driven up. I was looking for a $30 floor, local floor for silver, and it looks like that's what we're gonna get. Your 4-hour chart is it's showing some reversal signals. That money flow is light red. It is kind of ticking to the green side. Your MACD is also curving on the bottom side. So it looks like we're going to get a bounce off that zero line. We've got the Russell 2000, which I had talked about yesterday, making a little move on up out of there. I had kind of said that we might pull back down to that 50% line on this fib extension. Looks like we're just going to leave it behind for now. Definitely moving on up. You can see your prime oscillator has green money flow. It is curving on this 4-hour chart, and you've got your MACD that is pointed extremely to the upside. This is very good for those risk on assets. So just a little signal on the TradFi side of things that they're definitely looking at more of the risk side of things. We have John Woods in here saying with the Otter Gang username saying Toaster, you bench Kenny yet? I'm guessing that's on your fantasy football that's going on. Bluff City Breaks said I low key called that. Um, I said 80K was max pain FOMO, and we ran to 89K. Well, as I had talked about earlier in the show, I had waited to see some support, and I did have an upside target on Bitcoin at that $92,000 mark, which was a measured breakout from the wedge. I had wanted to see reclaiming of the all-time highs. Me and me and LBC differed some. I had wanted to see some downside and a closing of a fair value gap down at the 66 range before moving on up. Didn't get that. Trump got elected, explosive moves on up. We broke support on a higher time frame, turned it into support here and moved on up. And that measured breakout from the wedge that we were in for 6 months, that measured target was 92,000. I've had some stopping points along the way. The $77,000 mark on a extension would have been a nice point to jump on in if you had not jumped in. We paused there for a second, got a rejection off of it, then moved on up out of it, and then have exploded to the upside at the $80,000 mark. This 84,000, 85,000 mark, top side 84.8 is looking like a point where we could see some more support before a move on out of to the 92,000. Bluff City Breaks saying, bro, all you had to do was flip bullish since 50K. I don't know if you just don't listen to us or something, but I've definitely said macro. I've been bullish for a while. I do look at, because we are traders here, the potential pullback points where 66K and a fair value gap was a potential for a pullback point. And we've told you what our full explosive look was that we wanted to see after the election. Guess what? After the election, explosive moves up. So that's really what I wanted to see. I've had that $92,000 mark target for a while now. I don't know if anyone has some assets that they'd like me to look at for the morning, but I can definitely take some looks. I've got about 10 minutes or so before I need to head on out. I've got hopefully work this morning. We've been getting a lot of rain here, so definitely affecting the work that I can do sometimes. So I do have the Dixie on things where you kind of see here my target for the Dixie has been that $106 mark to break some old highs and reclaim that as support. We're definitely looking like that's going to be a potential move. You've got your prime oscillator with heavy green. You're looking to basically ignore these divergences. Your prime oscillator is moving completely sideways. Yes, it ticked red for a second, but looks like it's gonna continue that move on up. If you move it on to your daily chart, you can kind of see here why I'm saying that. You just broke above on your MACD. Again, the signal line on the top side of things. Money flow kind of ticked down a little bit, but we're having heavy green. We ignored this reversal signal back here when things were light red, and you've got a slight overbought signal, but definitely not looking overbought. We're looking to reclaim some of these levels. A kind of hesitation point could be that low 106 range. Well, 106.12 could be another hesitation spot before we continue on up. But the U.S. economy is looking kind of strong off of this Trump news. I would expect to see a little bit of a pullback on that from tomorrow's data, though. So we'll kind of see if we can reclaim that 106.5 range and make that as support for the pullback. Let's see. We have French Toaster saying pith, and a Liddy Luna Flores asking for Velo. So let me hop on over here, pull up pith. There it is. Kind of did some TA on that yesterday. It looks like we ended up breaking below this, which is kind of what I called for. This narrowing wedge, which is pointed to the upside, normally signals a breakdown for an asset. I wasn't expecting the breakdown to be so soon, but it looks like we found that support down at that 40 cent mark. So let's zoom it on in a little bit. See the 15-minute chart. Looking like we've got heavy support at this 40 cent mark. Could potentially break back inside the range. That money flow still is sitting a little red on your 15-minute chart. So could see maybe a triple bottom here, as you know, we want to see a floor. It will depend a lot on if Bitcoin continues to retrace. Bitcoin, as I had said, that $92,000 mark is kind of where I'd like to see us hit before we really make any retrace or consolidation movement sideways. If that does end up happening and we continue that move on up, I would expect to see pith pull back into that range, kind of back up here to reclaim some of the points that we haven't seen in quite a while. Let me zoom on out a little bit. Let's see the daily chart. It's been a while since I looked at pith. I have been focused on other assets. So there we go. There's that point that I wanted to see. That 50 cent mark would be a big point to get back up to. And this is, as you can kind of see on your daily chart, we're at a point where we could see a little bit of consolidation on this 40 cent mark before making a move on up. And that's a good sign when you're seeing some of these alts consolidate at solid points where we've rejected off of before. With Bitcoin making some strength, you could very easily see pith make that move on up to that 50 cent mark. It's probably might fall a little bit short. You do have some points down here at 45 cents, which would also be a nice level to reclaim. That hourly chart is looking like it's cooled off very nicely. You could definitely see some more movement here on this 40 cent range, because you can see your money flow is still a little red. You've got some divergences here. Your prime oscillator is kind of cooling off though on what it's signaling. Could definitely scoop a little and end up pointing back up. Your MACD still needs a little more cool off though on that hourly chart. Let me see if I have Velo on my list. Let's see. It's not looking like I got Velo on my list. So, Velo. I don't think I've ever really looked at Velo. It looks like for the 1 hour chart, we're definitely seeing some chances that we could move on up to the upside. Let me zoom on out though. Let's hit a daily view. You can kind of see here we're getting a little bit of some mixed signals here. Your money flow is kind of sitting at that point where it's finally going green. Your prime oscillator is heavily green and pointed on up. You've got your MACD, which is sitting at that point where it's going to break the zero line and could definitely continue on the upside. This is going to be, as I said, for pith dependent on Bitcoin. You've got this point here where you've got your golden pocket sitting right above us. This is going to be at that 0.015 range, where we could definitely make a little bit of a stalling point. If you scoot it on down to that hourly, you can kind of see here we're set to move on up. Your money flow is still a little bit red though. Your MACD has not fully set on some curvature though, so you could definitely expect to see a slight double bottoming here on that 50 line, which is going to be about 0.013 on that. So just waiting for that money flow to come back in on a lower time frame. Let's see what the 15's saying. If that yeah, you can kind of see your money flow on some lower time frames is kind of moving on back in. I'd like to see that affected on your higher time frame charts. As you can kind of see here, it looks like it might get that bounce that I was talking about on that 0.013 mark. So definitely a point for a continuation. You do have your prime oscillator set here to kind of head either direction. Your MACD is also kind of set to move either direction. We could easily just get a bounce off of this signal line and continue to the upside if Bitcoin decides it's going to be continuing to the upside today. We have Silver Days XRP in here. Good morning, good morning. We've got All Set. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for that super chat yesterday. I had clicked end the live yesterday when I had seen it, so I didn't say something about it yesterday. We have Martial Law in here. Good morning, good morning. Lunar Beaches in here. Good morning, good morning. He said, where's that weird white dude that was on this show? We've got Wick 589. Time to sell Bitcoin for XRP. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd sell Bitcoin for XRP. Maybe some Ethereum for XRP. But not right now. There's still a lot of explosive movements to be made. Maybe some dry powder for some XRP, if anything. It is definitely at a point where you could see some explosive moves up. Here's that 15-minute chart. Oh, you've got your money flow sitting a little green. You've got curvature on your MACD as well, set to break that signal line on the top side. Your prime oscillator here is at an indecision point, so definitely something to keep in mind on your lower time frames. For your higher time frame charts though, pointed straight up, getting some signals of reversal, overbought. Your money flow is sitting finally green, but you've got some heavy resistance here up at that 70 mark. You can kind of see your wicks are very big here on that 70,000 that 70 cent mark. You can also see it's been a heavy point of rejection over and over again. I'd like to see it reclaim those levels, you know. I want to see support there before I really have some faith in XRP. It's been in a giant consolidation phase for a few years now, which definitely shows that it has potential for breakout, but its real world use case is there, but it's not being used. So just something to keep in mind. XRP has been a decent mover, but it's normally a decent mover later with very explosive moves when things are actually moving around. XRP does get used a lot to move money around. So that's normally when you see that price inflate. We've got Cable Guy saying, thinking about swapping some Bitcoin for some Doge. Use some dry powder for that. Keep your Bitcoin there. You might not ever get a chance to buy back in at this point. You know, we could see some pullbacks, or it could just be a consolidation up in the 90,000 mark. I don't know if I would swap out that Bitcoin. Swapping out Bitcoin for other projects for me is normally a later in the run move. I like to keep my Bitcoin there. I don't like to sell a whole lot of Bitcoin either. I like to keep my HODL Bitcoin as a long-term HODL portfolio. I do have some short-term Bitcoin that sometimes I'll buy and just leave on exchange for that single run. Doesn't happen very often though. I like to self-custody most of my assets. We have I'm My Hero, Sup Trash Cat. I don't know what that's to, but good morning, good morning. If we don't have any other assets that people would like me to take a look at, I'm gonna wind the show on down. I definitely need to go to work this morning. We'll see if I end up working today. We've been getting a lot of rain, so if I don't, I might do a surprise little show on my channel later today. So, thanks to everyone that showed up this morning. I enjoy doing this show, as always, every single morning, bringing y'all the alpha. I hope you enjoy it, and check out the links in the description. We've got, as I had discussed earlier, the WAP upperclassmen in our Discord, where we do a lot of these trading calls throughout the day. We also have Piper and OC Guy going live here at 9:30 Eastern Time with the morning market open report. We have TradeFly and FD White going to be here at 8:30 Eastern Time, PM. Let me clarify that. It's PM. It's nightcap. You would think PM. But Eastern Time, going to be coming out with the Crypto Nightcap. That's all here on this channel. We bring y'all the alpha all day long. If I'm not mistaken, it's Tuesday. Yep, it is Tuesday. So we're going to have FD White and Piper coming out with a trading show. I can't remember the name of it. That's going to be here at 3 p.m. Eastern Time as well. So for 3 more shows today with all of the alpha to help you guys make money this bull run. Thank you for showing up. Remember to trade safe, use those stop losses, and wake up, because today's going to be a good day.